Hi guys, this is Mrs. Flores, and I wanted to give you a video lesson. You should have already watched the video on Khan Academy, and the video was about finding the area of a parallelogram. That was what the video was about. And I just wanted you to watch it because it explains the relationship between triangles and rectangles. And the areas of each are related to each other because, as you'll see in this worksheet today, um, the triangles that we're talking about are basically a rectangle that's been cut in half diagonally from corner to corner. Okay, so you're going to do the same kind of procedure as you did for the first worksheet that you did this week, which was extremely easy if you recall. And that worksheet was all about just finding the area of a rectangle and irregular figures, but using the little squares. Okay, so you'll see that in the worksheet here, in this area at the top, um, your, hello, oh, okay, my, my, um, my document is kind of delayed. It's a little bit delayed. Okay, so we're going to focus on this rectangle at the top with the examples. They compressed a lot of information into a very small area, so you're going to have to pay close attention. Okay, so I don't necessarily like their explanation with this little formula up here because that's not how I would have explained it in the classroom. Basically, they're saying 1/2 of the base times the height. Now, base, I want you to think of the word bottom of the shape, like this is the bottom here. That's the base of the triangle. B, base, B, bottom. And when you multiply um, this bottom, the base of the triangle, times the height of how tall it is, multiply those two, the answer you get, half of that answer, that's the area of the triangle. But the way that they wrote it here, right, they said, oh, 1/2 times the base. Well, it basically means you're going to take the answer that you get from multiplying these two and you're going to divide it in half. You're going to divide it by 2. So over here, we're going to look at that. So look at first, they multiply the base times the height. So they did it like this, and you know that since it's a decimal, all you have to do when you multiply times 10 is you move the decimal over like that. Okay, so that we got 85. And then you have to divide this 85, divide by 2, because you're multiplying it times this fraction. And the numerator of the fraction is 1. So 1 times 85 is 85. And then this fraction bar here is like this fraction bar. And that really means dividing, right? We remember how we used to, use that to also mean dividing. So this is what it would look like. Now, you can do this in your head, if you know your times tables and you're very, very, very familiar with dividing. But if you're not familiar with dividing, you might want to write it down as a division house, which I cannot do because I don't have a pencil tool in this app. But basically, 2 goes into 8 4 times. There it is. And then there's no remainder. And then 2 goes into 5 2 times. There it is. But there's one remainder. But there's no number after the 5, so you have to add a decimal point here and then a 0. So then the 1 left over from when you subtracted the the 5 from the 4, that 1 added with the 0 that you bring down, that makes 10. But because the 0 is after the decimal point, how many times can 2 go into the 10? You put the 5 after the decimal point up in the quotient. So that's, I don't know if it helps you or not, but if you do the division house form, redo the video and pause me lots as I, listen to me repeat that whole thing again, but slower. Okay, so that's how you get the area of a triangle, of this triangle here. It's 42. And then look at the units here. It's square centimeters. And the reason why they use square centimeters is because, like I explained on Monday, if you were to put little squares inside this rectangular shape here, the the fact that how many squares there are that fill this in, that makes it square units. So in this case, we're talking about centimeters. So that's how we always describe the area of a shape in square units. All right, so now for the rectangle, notice that they changed the words. Instead of saying instead of saying base, they called it length. So you need to know that even though it's called a different word, it's the same side, okay? So, and when we're measuring the triangle, they called it base. But we're measuring rectangle, so now they're calling it length. I always use the rule that the longer side, the longer side is the length, and then the shorter side is the width. But over here, right, they use the same numbers, and they got 85 square centimeters, just like we did when we multiplied the triangle. So, so the triangle area just requires one more step, and that extra step is dividing in half the answer to the two sides multiplied together. Okay, so over here, um, it wants you to find the area of the square. Now, I wrote down 12 times 12 because I want to remind you a square has four equal sides. And so even though they only wrote it once here, I know that always throws off so many students. They're like, all the other shapes have two numbers. How come this one only has one? Because it's a square. And so whenever you see a shape with just one measurement, remind yourself, oh, it's probably a square with four equal sides, so they're not going to waste the ink, I guess. All right, so you're going to multiply this side times this side, which you know is the same measurement, and then you're going to get an answer. Now, I put 2 digits here, but just a hint, hint, that answer is not going to be 2 digits. I was very nice to you and I included the units. And I included the units because I didn't want you to have to fight and figure out how to make the little square exponent here with a 2. Um, so for this worksheet, it's going to be in there for you, okay? All right, so 12 times 12 equals what? And then you put your answer here. And then for the area of the triangle, okay, what's half of this answer? So I put 12 times 12 equals something, and that's something divided by 2. Okay, fine, I'll give you the answer. You bunch of babies. All right, so it's 144, right? And, uh-oh, Mrs. Flores. Okay. And then, so here it's going to say 144 divided by 2. Okay, so what's 144 divided by 2, kids? You should know. It would be 2 goes into 1? No. 2 goes into 14? Yes. How many times? 7. All right, and there's nothing left over, so you bring down the 4. 2 goes into 4. How many times? 2. All right, there you go. It's half of 144. That's the area of the triangle. And that's how you do it. Okay? So I want you to go ahead and work on the rest of them. I have a little surprise at the bottom. So if you're like, I don't want to do all this work, fine. There's a little opportunity here at the bottom. There's a hidden challenge under this text box. If you want to do this one problem under this orange text box, if you want to do this one problem correctly, or if you do this one problem correctly, you'll automatically get full credit for this assignment, even if you got the other problems wrong. So if you want this challenge, highlight the orange text box and delete it. When you delete it, don't put it back. Well, I'm just kidding. Go ahead and put it back if you want. But just remember, if you don't want to do these 6 problems, easy problems, and you want to just do one hard problem, go ahead. But what if I want to do both? Do them both. Go ahead. You'll get double the points. I'll give you double the points. Okay, but you got to get it right, of course. Okay. And if you want to get the full credit, you have to make sure that the problem you did on the bottom underneath this box, you have to make sure it's right. So you're kind of, it's up to you how you want to take a chance, I guess. If you're very confident and you're like, I know how to do this, go ahead and do this challenge. I don't mind. Okay, guys. Um, I want feedback from you guys about, how this is working out. And I really miss the back and forth and the questions and stuff like that you have. So hopefully soon we'll do a Zoom meeting, a Zoom lesson where I'm teaching you and you're working with me on a worksheet like this and we're doing it together. But for right now, we're just going to do this and see how it goes. Okay, see you guys later. Take care.